Okay. Compulsive Thinking, and this is from True Refuge by Tara Brach. Let me just make it a little bit bigger here. Okay. When we disconnect from the body, we are pulling away from the energetic expression of our being that connects us with all of life. By imagining a great tree uprooted from the earth, we can sense the unnaturalness, violence, and suffering of this severed belonging. The experience of being uprooted is a kind of dying. Some people tell me about the despair of not really living, of skimming the surface. Others have the perpetual sense of a threat lurking around the corner. And many speak of being weighed down by a deep tiredness. It takes energy to continually run away from pain and tension, to pull away from the life of the present moment. Roots in the air, we lose access to the aliveness and love and beauty that nourish our deepest being. No false refuge can compensate for that loss. When we live inside an incessant stream of thoughts, we become identified with our mental creations. We react to the people or events in our minds as if they were real, and we believe that the self portrayed in our mental stories is actually who we are. Severed from the direct experience of the present moment, from the truth that is here and now, we are lost in a virtual reality.
I mean, just those two paragraphs are pretty powerful, and the one that really resonates with me for each of us, and especially this group, because we've talked about it. It takes energy to continually run away from pain and tension, to pull away from the life of the present moment, and how that makes us tired, exhausted, spent, and depressed. Does that resonate with you guys at all?
Definitely. When you read that, it makes me think about, how much work it was when, I was drinking to go maintain that. And you're telling yourself, oh my God, you're so tired. I'm lazy. I can't do anything but drink. But driving around trying to get all those drinks all day, that's a lot of work. And totally separate from your mind, totally separating yourself from your mind, driving around all day, not thinking about stuff, just that.
Yeah, and running away from ourselves is exhausting because you can't run away from yourself. It's impossible,
Mhm.
and it's exhausting, and it is exactly what she's talking about, that we're continually trying to run away from the pain and the tension, the pressure, the stress, but you can't run away from it. You have to learn how to manage it and comfort it and be with it in a loving way. Did you want to share, Kristen?
I was just gonna say that I find mine showing up in the middle of the night. I'll wake up and then all of a sudden all those thoughts of everything just bombard me. And I sit there in this cycle, trying to get out of it, and I hate it.
Right. And maybe it wouldn't show up in the middle of the night if you were in the process doing it more regularly throughout your life, if you know what I'm saying. Because it will show up, whether it's at night or in the day, or the constant struggle in our heads, the battle in our heads is the battle, instead of being connected to ourselves where we're at peace. And I just feel like everybody in life wants peace. They do, internal peace, but we externalize it too. But the internal peace is what we're seeking. And the head is never going to let that happen, because that's not where you find peace. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I really love just the imagery, kind of metaphor of the tree That really, I don't know, is just poignant for me. When I think about when those times when I am really stuck in my mind, or, there is that severing. Like, I'm not in my body.
Which are your roots.
Right. Exactly. Which is the thing that connects me to myself, my feelings, the present moment, all of that. So I find that to be very helpful, um, to think about it that way. And also that tiredness, you know, the it's something that I experience a lot, and I've always just thought, "Oh, that's my depression. I'm just tired. I'm just tired." And I've often thought about it as like just like physiological, not mental issue. Something like, oh, it's some sort of depression chemical inside of me, and but not that it's my mind that's exhausting me.
Gosh, yeah.
But it makes total sense because it's very exhausting in this mind.
It
You
is.
know? Sometimes more than others, but yeah. So I don't I really that stands out as something I'm really taking away from this reading.
Yeah, I just want you to really realize that depression can be a feeling, but our thoughts create the depression more than the feeling of depression, if that
Mhm.
makes any sense.
Mhm.
Because we're running away. See, it's like imagine your essence, your spirit, your soul, your psyche is all inside. Okay, the roots, the system that grounds us, connects us.
Mhm.
And then our heads are keep trying to separate us from that. And it creates anxiety, it creates depression because we're separating from ourselves, and it's
Mhm.
like there's an internal battle trying to get us to connect to our
Mhm.
intuition and to our being, and the mind is fighting that,
Mhm.
and it's exhausting because you
Mhm.
can't win.
Mhm.
The only way is to surrender and accept that your intuition in your body houses everything that's precious. Your thoughts keep you from all that. It's
Mhm.
like she says in here, Roots in the Air, it says, we lose access to the aliveness and love and beauty that nourish our deepest being. That's a
Mm.
beautiful way of saying exactly what I was just saying.
Yes.
In our heads, we're not nurturing ourselves.
Mhm.
We're in a battle.
Mhm.
It's truly exhausting. Go ahead, Sarita.
And for me, what is the most exhausting thing or the most depressing thing is that when I'm going through this, trying to run away, the spinning in my mind and everything, I just think, what the hell is wrong with you? What is wrong with you, girl? It's just like beating myself up about it. That like is just like, it just cements it in a little bit.
Yes.
That's a huge thing that I deal with for sure. That's probably
Yeah.
worse than the depressive feelings. Is that coming like, oh, here it comes again. What's wrong with you? Why can't you take control of this?
Right. Right. Because, we're not taught how to nurture ourselves, how to soothe ourselves, how to comfort ourselves. And when we're struggling, it's like pause the struggling and go in and nurture yourself, be with yourself, connect to yourself. Then the struggle is lessened or quieted. That's the only way in is in. I mean, the only way out is going in. Does that make sense, you guys? It's like you can't fight yourself and win. It's a senseless battle, but we grew up not knowing how to soothe ourselves, comfort ourselves, nurture ourselves, connect to ourselves. So we severed, the head severed from the root system, which is what nurtures us and feeds us, feeds our spirit, our soul, our being. And our job here, or what we need, is to put the effort in to connecting to the root system, not the head, and thinking about it, or how to plan it, or how to avoid it, or do you know what I mean by that, you guys?
I love that, Janice, connecting to the root system.
It is the root system.
Yeah.
You know, it's where she says it, you know, it's where aliveness and love and beauty, the deepest part of us, that is the root system.
Mm-hmm.
The heart system, whatever you want to call it. But in this metaphor, that's what the roots are.
Mm.
Does that make sense, you guys? You know, can you see how the thoughts are, we're going to go to the next part, but how the thoughts are an incessant stream of thoughts. We become identified with our mental creations. It's like that's where we're living in our own virtual reality, so to speak. It's not real,
Mm-hmm.
but we protect it like it's everything. So
Yeah, it's this part is so crucial. Like
yes,
that it's incessant. It's I think we did the reading here with that Mark Twain quote of all
right.
the tragedies in our life, but the ones that are the
The
worst are
ones
in
that
my
have
head.
never happened.
Or yeah, the ones that never happen. Yeah. It's what we're making up in our minds and that we then become identified with. Like, I'm tired, and then I believe I'm tired.
Yes. And you say it to yourself how many times? How many times do you say, God, I'm so depressed. I'm so
Yeah.
tired.
Yeah.
So
Well,
depressed. So
it's it's the narratives we were talking about last time. That's the same exact thing.
it is.
But this goes to the root. This looks at a
Totally.
different angle.
It everything interweaves if we see how it all plays together. None of these are separate. They're all just different approaches to figuring out ways to challenge it and to connect to ourselves. And you're absolutely right. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I don't care, I don't want to. That is the narrative, but how tiring is that narrative?
That is exhausting. Truly. Yeah. Do you want me to read a few more paragraphs?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So let's see. We're usually aware of painful obsessions like nagging thoughts about a dreaded job interview or persistent fantasies about having a drink when we've sworn to be abstinent. But compulsive thinking also takes the shape of everyday obsessing, the familiar stream of worries and plans that are an ever present part of our lives. This kind of obsessing is free floating. It will affix itself to whatever object is available. We might anxiously obsess about an unfinished project at work, complete it, and then immediately transfer our obsessing to what needs to be done next. Or we might have a strong craving for acknowledgement or a burning desire to buy something new. And after satisfying it, we find we are grasping after the next fix. Even a vague sense of anxiety or stress can lead to dozens of hours lost to worrying or planning, judging, or figuring things out. Do you want me to keep going?
I don't know. I think that's pretty powerful too, just to
Yeah.
pause for a moment and reflect on what she's trying to convey to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's nice to hear and important to hear how we do this to ourselves. You know, that's what I love about this reading. It's reinforcing it on many levels. but how that obsessiveness just attaches to anything. It goes from one thing to another thing to another thing, and that's tiring.
It is. And it also really, for me, explains how the obsessive thinking is like another way of numbing out. And how that can be like an addiction too.
But it is,
Yeah.
and it's also a virtual reality. The obsession becomes our virtual reality
Mhm.
because it morphs. It's constantly waiting for the next thing to obsess about, plan about. What does she say? Stream of worries and plans, and it affixes to anything. Unfinished work. It just goes on telling us that's how we live our lives. That paragraph right there tells us how we live our lives. And that's not living. That's a virtual life. Because we're not connected. Do you guys see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most powerful part of that paragraph is it will affix itself to whatever object is available. I mean, I could be looking at this light, okay, this lampshade, and then whatever I put in my path is where I go, because I could be like, I need to dust it, and then I'll obsess about that for the next hour. Let's just say, I mean, that's a weird example, but I'm looking at it, and that's what I put in my path, and that's what I'm attaching to, and that's but and it also reminds me of, I told you, Janice, once, that I make a lot of lists, like, of to-dos, and
Right.
and I know that you have a different approach. Like, maybe you'll have a couple of things that you want to check off for the day, but like, not these lists that are not, you're not able to complete. So not completely parallel to what
Oh,
we're
yeah.
talking about here, but there's there yeah, it
It is, because you obsess about lists.
yeah.
Is that life?
Right. It's right, exactly. Yeah, you're right. It's a fake virtual frickin' thing that
Yes.
may need to be done or may not need to be done. Depends on like what I'm like attaching myself to. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. I love that.
ridiculous.
I do the same thing. I obsess quite a bit over pretty much everything. Um, the work one really hits home with me. I'll be working on one lesson plan or getting one thing graded, and as soon as it's done, I'm worried about the next one and the next one and the next one, and it's never, and so there's never a break. I never have, I never have even 5 minutes where I'm like, oh, all right, this is great. I'm free. And so I do that not with work, but with everything else. And I will do the same thing. I'll obsess over the lampshade or whatever it was until I fix it, and not let it go.
And something else.
Yeah. And then it'll be something else. It will be, it'll be the dishwashing machine. It's got the green light blinking and I don't know why it's blinking, but I'm, I'm gonna obsess with that in bed until I can figure it out and come down and fix it.
I love it. See, that's a virtual reality. We're not in life.
Yeah.
We're in obsessing and problem solving, or
Yeah.
planning, or escaping, or all of the above. And I just want to remind you guys, this is very important to hold and recognize. We've got to get into our root system, our heart, our spirit, our being. She just says it in such a beautiful way. Were you going to say something, Sarita? I saw you lead forward.
No, I was just going to say, following up on what Kate said, I was a total list maker. And I do get into it, but it was just an idea of like trying to control my life, thinking that I had some element of control over my life and this list would do it. And yes, it was always too long to get everything done. So at the end of the day, you're like, what the fuck did I do? But for me, it was, you're talking about going from one thing to another, obsessing from one thing to another. And for me, it was, about achievement and thinking that once you achieve something, and I remember this, I'd be like, "Whew, okay, this is it. I've done it. Woo! Remember this feeling forever." And then like the next day, it's like, "Oh my God, what do I have to achieve now?" So I think I've reduced my list making. I definitely don't think of the things that I used to grasp for as, the only achievements in life, which is nice. But yeah, that's what that brought to mind for me.
Thank you. I love that. Because the list, if you think about it, it's unending and it's just a way to distract. We depend on it like it's God, or that we're directed and owned by a list. That's different than having a planner and having you planned it, but the list becomes obsessive because it's non-ending. There is no end to a list. You can create 25 more.
And I really like what you said, Sarita, about it was like trying to give you a sense of control over your life. That's a virtual reality,
Yeah.
right? So,
And I just want to speak to that.
I'm sorry. I was going to say
Okay.
that's one that is hard to part with, you know.
Mhm.
And I never even thought about parting with it before I met you guys. The goal of our life. Give me a break.
yep.
And I was talking earlier, about control doesn't exist. It's like feeling out of control is more important than trying to control. If you feel out of control, you can do something about that because it's something you can soothe and comfort and attend to. Trying to control out of control doesn't work because it's impossible. It's the same dynamic. I gotta control. I feel out of control. I gotta control something. It doesn't work that way. It's like if you feel out of control, what do you need? What do you need? It's that simple. How do you comfort yourself? It will soften and allow it to find some peace, going back to what we're all looking for. Does that make sense, you guys? That control element it's all out of whack, because we felt so out of control our whole lives. The only thing we had options was the illusion of trying to control something, whether like there's people that do eating disorder as a child because they think it's some attempt to control something in their life, instead of what's really going on in the child that needs attention. You know what I mean by that? So it's such an illusion. Control is such an illusion. It's more important to know I feel out of control. What do I need? Just make that your mantra. Go inward. What really is going on? What do you need right then? Probably you just need some comfort and reassurance and acknowledgement.
Should we read a few more paragraphs?
Sure.
Okay. While the intensity of compulsive thinking varies, the common denominator is that whenever we're lost in thought, we are disconnected from our body and our senses. We are cut off from the perceptiveness and receptivity that underlie our natural intelligence and kindness.
I know, it's beautiful.
So beautiful. All right, let me do the next paragraph. Some thoughts are harder, excuse me, are harder to wake up from than others. If we become mindful of a wispy thought cloud, it usually dissolves and it is easy to come back to the hub of the wheel. In contrast, when we are overtaken by storm clouds, the compulsive thinking that is driven by intense fear or craving, the trance is more compelling. We are in an emotional tornado. a wired together constellation of thoughts and feelings. As soon as we recognize our storm cloud of thoughts, we are no longer inside it. But unless we also acknowledge that cloud's strong emotional charge, its energy will catapult us back into obsession. We will quickly become re identified with our thoughts, and they will again drive our emotions and behavior.
I mean, it's just repeating in a different form exactly what we're talking about. You know, that
Mhm,
that compulsive thinking is really the critical part of this because it separates us from us.
mhm.
You know, what do you guys think about that? Does anything coming up for you?
Well, I don't know. I guess I was struggling last night with something that overcame me and I couldn't get out of the repetitive shame it thought. So I was planning, this is so stupid. I was planning on going to the gym at night for a night class and I I forgot until the last minute and then I just beat on myself like for about an hour. And then this morning I I was over it like because it's just such a blip in my life. Like, why was I so obsessed with the fact that I fucked up and I didn't get to the gym, to the class that I wanted to attend? I'm trying to relate it to this. I think it's because I was totally preoccupied with like hating on myself. It was crazy. It was like so for me, I mean, I'm looking at just this intense like thinking, just that thinking that wasn't me. I could have let go of it and been like, you're okay, like it's an hour of your life. I don't know, I don't know if it totally relates to this reading, but
Yeah,
I'm trying to relate it to it
it is.
because it's what I experienced
Exactly that.
recently.
You were obsessing about not going to the gym. I mean, whatever. You were obsessing and beating yourself up. That's the whole point of what
Yeah,
thoughts do.
yeah.
The obsession is the destructive part.
Hmm.
And it creates the negative voice that is like we're gonna punish ourselves. We're so used to punishing ourselves by the obsessive thoughts.
Hmm. Hmm.
Instead of, like you said, you could have paused or practiced pause and just flipped it.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not that simple, but it is that simple.
Hmm.
It's like, how do you pause when you're in that spiral?
Can I ask, why do we keep punishing ourselves? What does it give us? Like, obviously, we keep doing it, and we must find something in it that we keep doing it. So, why do we keep doing it?
Well, there's multiple levels to that. And we were used to being punished when we were little. We learned how to punish ourselves, and that was a conditioning. And also, we get addicted to it because we get a hit from it. It's like emotional addiction, going back to that reading. It's a very complicated, it's not one answer to the punishment of what we do, but we were conditioned to get in trouble, get punished, being the boogeyman's gonna get us. So we learned to do that intrinsically, not like we're born with it, but we were trained to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And the thing is how to unlearn that. That's what this whole group is about. How do you unlearn what we learned? Because it's just learning, it's not the truth. None of
Yeah.
this is the truth. It's just what we were conditioned and you know, driven by. It's what we learned. And you guys can unlearn this. I know it for a fact.
Yeah, it is crazy, Kristen. I'm so glad you asked that question because I mean that is the question. And I just don't think I can even see it, like the answer to it, because obviously I went there for a reason. It was something I feel very often about, feeling like so shitty about myself. I can't believe just missing a gym class spiraled me down into I am a slothful, awful person. And the codependent side of it, besides being crazy and being obsessed with my thoughts, is that I kind of started saying out loud because my husband was home, and I almost think I wanted him to be like, "You're fine, you're good, like you're doing great, you're hitting the gym every other day or whatever." Like I think I wanted him to say that, like because I couldn't say it. I don't know. I needed to add that part of the story. Sorry, but thank you for asking that
Yeah,
question,
like
Kristen.
it's exactly right. I mean, what we're talking about is something that's been ingrained in us from the time we were born. So
Mhm.
imagine trying to shift it in a couple of weeks or a year even or more. It's like it's a process, it's a practice that you've got to be willing and able to challenge, even if you don't do it all the time. Okay, so that's not anything to beat yourself up about either. Maybe you obsess for an hour, but then next time you learn ahead of time, how do you pause it? How do you be good to yourself after the obsession's over? How do you have some compassion for yourself? How do you counter it with
Yeah, and like what Kristen, again, back to what Kristen was saying, like, I mean, honestly, like, even though it felt awful, 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 it's what I know, and
yes,
it's what I do to myself because
yes.
I'm not, because it's what I know and it's where I'm safe, even though it feels shittier than shit. Like, there's something there, I think, but I don't, I don't, that's great. That's insanity.
Well, the insanity is we know that it's not helpful for one, but we don't know how to not do it because we've been trained. It's like any reaction, any action, we've been trained. It's immediate. It's how do you untrain yourself? Because if you don't take the time, even though we're addicted to it and we're used to it and it's familiar, well, I don't know. You have a choice now. You already know that doesn't feel good, even though it does feel comfortable. Do you want to shift it? That's entirely up to you guys at this point. None of us can be the panacea for this because it takes commitment that you don't want to do it anymore, at least intermittently, process that. Because I don't think you guys want to do it anymore. I personally don't think you do, but it is ingrained, it is familiar, it is something we're accustomed to, and it's punitive and it's mean and it's damaging. Those are the truths about it.
And like what Sarita said, sorry, I'm dominating here a little bit.
No, no.
I'll be quiet in a sec. What Sarita said was like she didn't know she had a choice, and now and I'm paraphrasing, not even close to paraphrasing, but I feel like I didn't, and so we are lucky like that we're getting some insight into this and challenging our
Right?
internal processes. Like how lucky, because there's some people who will never be able to do that or know that you can do that.
Yeah, it's like realizing you do have a choice and not beat yourself up because it happens because it's an almost automatic response. It's that familiar and ingrained. It's like almost like breath. I mean, it's that common. Do you know what I'm saying? It takes effort to pause that because it is so ingrained. And the choice is just to come to this group. The choice is to talk about it. The choice is to honor yourself. These are choices. You are making choices to do it differently, but don't beat yourself up because you've done it forever. And you haven't done this new process hardly at all. It's like brand new almost, you know, and just nurture it. Like, it does feel better. And I know everybody in this group knows when it feels better not to do it. And hopefully that will help the next time not to do it. You know what I'm saying? You got to build off of that. You can't just say, okay, I did it. Now I feel better. Well, no, it's not going to work like that. I wish it did. I mean, then I wouldn't have to work anymore trying to keep myself in alignment.
Mhm. I think that one thing that's coming up for me now is what she said about, let's see, as soon as we recognize our storm cloud of thoughts, we are no longer inside it. So it's like, you know, for me, the practice is, okay, I'm in a storm cloud, and now I'm going to choose something different. I'm not choose that cloud, you know? And that is like a practice.
And sometimes you're going to be caught in a storm cloud and don't beat
Uh-huh.
yourself up for it.
Right, right.
Because that is the opposite of what you want to do. You want to recognize when the storm stops, how to not try to do it the next time. I mean, it's a beautiful learning metaphor, you know, like not to beat ourselves up, even if we get caught in a storm cloud, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna happen sometimes, and sometimes it's gonna happen more often, but let's have it try to manage it where it happens less often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we expect perfection or want perfection. There is no perfection in this process. There isn't. It's just a process of stopping that obsessive, crazy
Mm-hmm.
thought processor that's creating havoc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I was thinking maybe read a little bit more.
yeah,
There's 2 more paragraphs.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. When we wake up from charged thoughts, remembering an anchor, such as the breath, can initially help us to come back. But to fully be here, excuse me, we need to mindfully include the sensations that live beneath the thoughts. Any thought or mental perception is expressed in a corresponding physical feeling. Conversely, our feelings also give rise to thoughts. This means that unless we bring both elements of this self-reinforcing loop into conscious awareness, we will continue to be hooked into the identity of an endangered or wanting self. If we are unaware of our thought process, we will buy into the content of our thoughts, which will in turn keep generating feelings of craving or fear. In the same way, if we are unaware of the anxiety in our bodies, we will identify with the felt sense of endangerment or craving, which will generate a new cycle of obsessive thinking. Then an emotion that lasts for a minute and a half can become a weather system that settles in for the long haul.
You know, it again, it's a dense reading, but it's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have time, it's good to reread it. And I don't mean once, but
Mm-hmm.
visit it. It's reinforcing, because what we're trying to do is unlearn what we learned. So this is a way of learning a different way. Do you know what I mean by that? You can't do it with one reading or 2 readings or 3 readings. It's like the reinforcement, learning this new process, learning, being willing to do the work that is required, which is the practice. Right, you guys? Does that make sense? You know, I think it's a really powerful thing to revisit for sure, because it's got a lot of very important information, um, guidance, you know. Does anybody want to share? Any more questions about why? Because I don't have the answers to why. I can help you know the how. But does it make sense that we learned all this and we take it as God's word? Because it becomes a belief too, and then it becomes a narrative, then we reinforce the belief, then we reinforce the thoughts and the narrative. It's like, ooh, yuck.
Yeah, and I think about when you say being conditioned, my parents were very supportive people, I think very positive people. And I can picture them beating themselves up all the time, and I always thought of them as self-confident people that, achieved a lot. And they always did that. And, just this morning, my son, Lucas, my middle son, who for some reason I think he's a lot like me because he's very moody and passionate, whatever. And this morning he was like, they finally called me back about this job. I'm so glad. I thought I screwed up. I thought I'd totally done this wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh my God, where do you get that from? And I was like, shit, I think I know where he got that from. Because that's right where I go. Often when he's doing something like that, or he'll say, I'm a terrible person or whatever. And I'm just like, Lucas, come on. I go upstairs and I tell myself, I'm a terrible person, just like he's telling himself. How crazy is that? But I think just the really important thing that everybody's saying is just the realization that we do have a choice, because that is the hardest thing for me to remember when this is going on.
Yes, and it's okay to reflect on it after.
Yeah.
That helps you learn too. It doesn't have to be in the moment because sometimes the storm's too big. That's okay, accept that. But after the storm, rebuild, realigned. It's the storm they're gonna come. So don't even think that's not gonna happen. But we can modify the storm, we can lessen the storm, and we can learn to manage it better. That's what I believe. Does that help you guys a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
very
you,
much.
Kristen? Just you guys practice. It's so important to practice this and reread it, like pick it up once a week, twice a week for a while, just to reinforce it's because you want to reinforce and learn something different because what you're doing is so destructive. Right?
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you guys as always.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for this meeting. This was so good.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Thank
Good night.
you.